This is Ken Klippenstein with TYT Investigates. I just wanted to talk about something that Bernie Sanders brought up that I thought was extremely important that unfortunately no one else did. He brought up the issue of Yemen. Yemen, unfortunately, is something that gets short shrift, not because it's not important, but I think just because it's a very poor country, and when it's poor folks, they don't have the same kind of representation other people do. And I wanted to go through some stats so people perhaps not familiar with the Middle East can understand why it's so important. What Sanders said was that this is the biggest humanitarian crisis in the world. That's absolutely true. The numbers are staggering, and that's what I kind of hope to go over today. Um, so this is so Save the Children. It's a charity group. Just put a report saying that there are 100,000 suspected cholera cases among children under 15 since just January 2019. That's insane. That's not even counting the previous 4 or 5 or however many years of the conflict going on in Yemen. So if you factor that in, it's about 1 million suspected cholera cases total since the conflict began. Which cholera, that is stuff you see when you're playing like the Oregon Trail, the game. Like that shouldn't be something that civilized 21st century society is tolerating, and unfortunately we are, because I mean, we're trying to do some kind of aid, but it's sort of a joke because we're supporting, first of all, a military blockade that the Saudi neighboring country of Saudi Arabia and the UAE and its coalition is imposing on Yemen, and that makes it so that goods and medicines can't get through to Yemen. That's a huge part of the reason that this is happening to begin with. Obviously, Yemen was the conditions have deteriorated to a shocking degree under this air war where Saudi just sends these F-16s that we supplied, by the way, bombs groups that they say are militants, but in many cases hit civilians. And I was grateful that Bernie brought that up, and it was sort of heartening to me that we're going to have serious discussion about foreign policy in a way that perhaps we might not have otherwise, because no one else brought up this issue. And again, in terms of like just numbers, I think that it absolutely is the greatest humanitarian catastrophe going on right now. In addition to the 1 million suspected cholera cases, we've seen 85,000 children under age 5 have died of starvation since the conflict. And I guess the reason I wanted to talk about it, and I'm glad that Sanders talked about it, was because we play a really central role in this. We're not just providing the weapons that we sell and export to them, we're also providing intelligence support, logistical support, without which I think it'd be very difficult to carry out something like the war that they're carrying out. And that's often ignored. It's usually called the Saudi-led coalition. And while obviously the Saudis are the ones most perhaps enthusiastic about it, it couldn't happen without our support. Bernie is the only candidate that matters, to be honest. Well, he's certainly the only candidate that brought this up. And if I was a Yemeni following the election, I probably would be very happy about that. But it's just sad because so many experts have pointed out that without our support, this wouldn't be happening. And it's kind of like you don't even have to do anything to help. We just have to stop doing something bad. We just have to stop supporting and aiding the Saudis in this. That doesn't even require. It's not like we have to spend anything to do that, or you know, change the structure of things. Like just don't do it, and so much of the suffering would end. And I don't know. It's really heartbreaking to me that this has been going on for however many years. But let me look at the comments for a second here. Ken, YouTube should just serve me up a Trump ad before you stream. Bernie is the only candidate that matters. I somehow can't be mad about Williamson. She's bananas, but in a non-hurtful way. That's exactly how I felt about it. I came into this having seen, Williams' support for being against vaccines. I was like, whoa, this is really dangerous because obviously that's becoming to tie this to Yemen. That's becoming a human. You're getting these diseases that we haven't seen in how long because of this insane fear mongering stuff. But she was just so endearing, and I couldn't bring it myself to kind of hate on her. Not that I would ever in a million years vote for her or tell anyone else to, but it was almost charming. It's like this archetype of person. It's like this. It's like in college when someone would be really into like new age woo woo kind of stuff, and that's sort of what she reminded me of, and I found it very disarming. And it was a very weird contrast to the like more abstract nature of the conversation during the debate. Let me just read a couple more stats. um, because I think the Yemen situation is extremely important. So, this didn't start under Trump. I don't want to be a partisan. I want to keep it real and tell you guys that this started under Obama and that, he really was the origins of this. But it's ramped up extraordinarily under Trump. The airstrikes have increased. These are not, garden variety airstrikes either. They'll bomb Saudi coalition will bomb. They bombed a funeral, and then when the first responders came in to try to, assist the injured, they then bombed the first responders as well. It's called a double tap strike, and that's really sick. And it just turns my stomach that the U.S. continues to support this, given that, I mean, even if you don't care about the ethics of it, just geopolitically, I don't understand what either the Saudis or us are getting out of this. Just one poll from Maine, but the post debate bumps may surprise. What did it find? Ian James Chapman, tell me. You're leaving us hanging here. Oh, Biden 25, Warren 17, Sanders 15. Wow, interesting. So it seems like Biden dropped a bit. If I recall, Biden was roughly twice what Warren and Sanders were, and Warren and Sanders were pretty similar. Buttigieg is down to 8, which is half. But anyways, going back to the Yemen point, that's interesting, huh? Yeah, I was just grateful that Sanders did it because you're not going to get any credit standing up for the poorest. I mean, Yemen is literally the poorest country in the entire Middle East, and it's at war, or really they're being slaughtered by. I don't know if you could call it a war because they don't have an air force. It's not like they have. I don't think they have anti-air. They're being slaughtered by literally the richest countries in the world. Saudi Arabia, UAE, with the assistance of the U.S. And the British and the French, I believe. So it's such an easy thing, I think, to make a case for not doing. Like all these kids starving, cholera coming back, God knows what that could mean for the rest of the region, and then the richest countries doing it. Like, why are we doing this? Um, so yeah, let me see if there's any more questions. That's so sad to hear a double bomb. Yeah, it's heartbreaking. Literally, the people that were kind enough to go out there and try to help, boom, they got hit by the Saudis too. And the expectation, I don't know what the strategy behind that even is. It just seems really sick. Ken Klippenstein, yeah, that's me. I don't know. I don't know if I define myself. I don't feel like I'm that good of a streamer, but it's a nice way to reach a different audience because I don't want to just be writing for other media people, which Twitter has a tendency towards. Not that it's all media people, but I think it does have a different sort of audience. Anyways, thanks all for joining me, especially people in the comments. That helps to make it so I'm not just hearing the sound of my own voice, which I don't, that's not something I like to do. So thanks for joining me. Once again, that's Ken Klippenstein with TYT Investigates.